We are back with the Tri-State Sports Guys. We're going to get right into it. We're going to walk you right through every division in the NFL. O sent me his picks for division winners. We had a lot of the same, but there were some differences and some pretty major differences. I think we had some real big differences in our opinions on a couple of these teams. So let's start. We're going to go west to east, kind of walk you through that way so we can finish in the east and talk about the Jets and the Giants last. NFC West. O's got Arizona, and I think Arizona's an interesting team. Now look, everybody agrees that this is the weakest division in all of football, but there are some interesting teams there that I think, like the Cardinals. You look at the Cardinals; they're a couple years removed from a Super Bowl, run. Granted, there's not a lot of the same pieces on there, but they got an explosive wide receiver. They got Kevin Kolb, who everybody's been talking about for years as being ready to the next big thing to come about. I'm not as sold on Kevin Kolb as O is, and O thinks he's great and thinks he's going to be a good, as we talked about in the first segment, thinks he's going to be a great fantasy quarterback. They got playmakers on defense who can cause turnovers. They might put some points on the board on defense, which is always big. So there's some potential there. I went with the Rams. I think the Rams are similar in that, there's a lot of unknowns, but there's a lot of potential there. You got Sam Bradford. He came on the scene, made a huge splash last year as a rookie. First game of the season, they asked him to throw the ball 50 whatever times. He did it. He did it well. He set a bunch of rookie records. I think, he is like a Matt Ryan and Joe Flacco, where, they asked him right as a rookie, here you go, here's the team, lead us. And, physically it took him a little while to make the adjustment, but I think mentally he was there. He commanded that team right away, and that's a big deal. And I think that I could see them being, a 9-win team this year, which will definitely win that division, I think. But another team to think about, and I have them third in the division, but is the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, you forget last year going into the season, they were the overwhelming favorites to win the division. Oh, it's a weak division. They got this great defense. They're going to walk all over them. Then they wound up starting with this terrible, terrible start. And to me, you blame that all on the coach. And so when you lose that many close games, and clearly you're a bit more talented team than your opponents, which they were in a lot of those games, you got to blame the coach. Now he's gone. So I think, they got a big question mark at quarterback, but they got a very, very good defense. It took a step back last year from where it was 2 years ago. But they're still very talented. They got Frank Gore, who just signed that extension. They got Michael Crabtree, who's going to make plays. They got Vernon Davis, who's a freak of an athlete. And they got a lot of players there where it wouldn't shock me if they're in that mix. And I think, we get into December, there's going to be 3 teams fighting for that. And it's going to be an exciting division to watch, even though it is probably the weakest division. Moving over to the AFC side on the West, to me, I took San Diego, and I don't even think it's really close. They typically start slow and make this late run in December, but last year they weren't able to do that, and they missed out on the playoffs. I think you look at Phillip Rivers, and I know a lot of people here in New York, they like to point to Peyton Manning because they have the same draft. They like to say Peyton Manning's a better quarterback because he's got a Super Bowl ring. Well, that's just ridiculous to judge it just completely on that one thing. Because I think if you ask any GM in all of football, if you wipe the slate clean, you throw every quarterback out in the free agency, who are you going to take? I think every team, 32 teams would take Phillip Rivers over Eli Manning. I'm sure of it. I mean, he's a better quarterback than Eli Manning is. So, I think that he alone can win that division, let alone the fact that we forget last year they were first in overall offense and first in defense and missed the playoffs, an anomaly which I don't ever remember happening. It might have happened, but I've never heard of it before. So, I mean, they got pieces on both sides of the ball, and I think that's a very weak division as well. Now, O has Kansas City, last year's division champion there. I just think they are the definition of a one-hit wonder. Last year, I think they just, they capitalized on San Diego's, down season. I think they won a couple close games that they shouldn't have won. I'm not as sold on Jamal Charles. I think anybody in that offense is going to, they're a good offensive line. They're going to get some rushing yards. They're going to score some touchdowns. But I'm not sold on Jamal Charles as being this elite running back. He just happens to be in the right situation. And I think every other aspect, other than the rushing game, San Diego is better than Kansas City. So I think Kansas City takes a step back. I think Denver's going to be atrocious. I do think Oakland's going to be another 8-8 season for them type deal. I think that they're not far away, but they're also not in the same class as San Diego. And we're going to get to the power rankings. I have San Diego pretty high in my power rankings. We'll go to the NFC South. To me, this is the premier division in all of football. And I know a lot of people talk about, the NFC North with, the Bears and Packers and all. I got 3 playoff teams coming out of this division. And I know I'm probably in the minority on this. Owen and I both have Atlanta winning this division. And I have Atlanta, when we get to the power rankings, I have them ranked very, very high. I mean, we forget they were the 1 seed last year. They just happened to run into the buzzsaw that was the Green Bay Packers at that time. They got Matty Ice. They now have just 2 stud wide receivers in Roddy White and Julio Jones. They got Turner the Burner. They got good defense. Look, they can come at you so many different ways. I think they're a fantastic team. Then you get the New Orleans Saints, who I think are a wild card team. I got them slotted in as my 5 seed. I think that their defense during their Super Bowl run, they were able to force a lot of turnovers, which turned into a lot of points, which helped them. And you can't always really rely on just forcing turnovers to the extent that they did. So it wasn't that much of a shock that they took a step back, but their offense is so good that they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, there's not enough teams that are going to score with them that they're going to get their 10 wins, I think, and possibly 11 wins, just because their offense is so prolific. I think Mark Ingram's going to help them. I think that's going to help them down in the red zone, just a guy that can pound it in there. And then I got Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay, they were a good team last year. They were very young. They're going to be a year older. They got a stud quarterback in Josh Freeman, who I know some of our listeners just didn't agree with me when I said he was a top 10 quarterback, but you look at the numbers, they don't lie. I mean, the guy was a second-year quarterback. He was second in the league in touchdown to interception ratio, only behind Tom Brady, I think. He can beat you in a lot of different ways. He's clearly a leader. And then you got LeGarrette Blount, who had a fantastic second half. You already know how I feel about him fantasy-wise. I really like them, and I think that they could win 10 games and slide into that 6th seed and slide into that last wild card slot. Now, Odin sent his wild card pick, so I don't know who he's got going, but I got both of mine coming out of that division. We move over to the AFC South. We both took Houston. I think this is a lot of just because of the Peyton Manning pick injury. It's kind of forced you to say, okay, well, it's got to be Houston because who else is it going to be? I don't think Kerry Collins is winning the division, and I don't think the other 2 teams in that division are good enough to win. So I think Houston is the pick there, although everybody's been talking about Houston for the last 3 or 4 years. When are they going to make this next step? When are they going to make this next step? Well, I think now they're going to do it almost by default because there's no one else from that division to kind of take the title there. NFC North, I think it's pretty clear cut. Green Bay is the team to beat. I think they're the team to beat in the NFL. Owen and I both agree there. I know a lot of people are talking about the Bears making the playoffs. I don't see the Bears as a playoff team, but I always tend to sell on the Bears. I don't buy into them, but they do it every year. They always have a solid defense. Cutler will do enough in the regular season. Matt Forte will be solid. They picked up Roy Williams, where you could see him maybe doing something now that he's in a different place and, fulfilling some of that potential. So I could see them doing well, being in the hunt in December, but I don't see them as a playoff team. And then you got Detroit. Detroit's going to be an interesting team to watch. If they can get up to 8-8, that's huge strides from where they were a few years ago. So I'll be pulling for them. It's exciting to see a team, a young team. They got an exciting young quarterback, exciting defensive line. They'll be exciting to watch. Over in the AFC North, we both took Pittsburgh. Again, Pittsburgh's a team every year until they don't do it. I'm going to have them as winning that division because, last year they had Ben Roethlisberger. They missed the first 4 games. They treaded water until he got back. They want to go to the Super Bowl. Well, now they're going to have him for the whole year. There's no reason why they shouldn't win that division. Baltimore is a team I have as one of the wild card teams, and they're another team that they're good. They're always going to be that 10-win team. I don't know that they're ready to make that next step, win the division, and go to the Super Bowl. I just don't. I don't see how they got any better over the offseason, and that's just where I see them being. They're a solid. They're one of the better teams in the conference, but they're not an elite Super Bowl type team. So they're going to be another wild card team for me. They're my 6th seed. We're going to go over to the NFC East now. Clearly, the pick here is the Eagles. Everybody's picking the Eagles, but I don't think it's so much because they're this dream team that everybody's talking about. As it is, I don't think that division is very strong. I think with the injuries to the Giants, and we talked a little bit about the Giants, I don't see how they're going to compete for that division. They have no depth anywhere, and if all these Eli Manning supporters, you could prove me wrong. If Eli Manning goes out there and leads them to the playoffs, leads them to 11 wins, then I'll tip my cap to him, and I'll say right on the show that I was wrong. But I don't see him being able to do that, carry a team. And without that great defense, and their defensive line is taking some hits, now their linebacking core is taking a hit, I don't see them being able to do it. Dallas, every time you think they're going to be good, they stink. Every time you think they're going to stink, they're going to be good. Well, I don't think they're going to be that good this year, so it wouldn't shock me to see them win 10 games and make the playoffs as a wild card. But my opinion on them is probably another 8-8 season for them. That's just kind of where I see them. We'll finish up in the AFC East. Now, we both took the Patriots, and as much as it kills me, it's not about the fact that I'm not confident in my Jets, because I love the Jets. I think they're going to be better than they were last year, but so are the Pats. And let's not forget how great the Pats were last year. They started all kinds of rookies on the defensive side of the ball. These guys are all now a year older. They got Chad Ochocinco, who's only going to help their offense. They got Tom Brady, who has never shown any signs of not being, the best quarterback in the NFL. They're going to be very tough to beat over the course of a season. Now, does that mean the Jets can't beat them? No, but I'm saying over the course of a season, I think they're going to be tough to beat, and I think they're going to be a 13-plus win team. It would not shock me for them to win 14 or 15 games. That's how good I think they are. I think the Jets are going to be a wild card team. I think they're going to win 11 games again. They have a tough start to the season. They can get through that tough start, get through week 5, and then get through week 5 at 3-2, or if 4-1, then I think they'll be golden. But 3-2 through the first 5 weeks, they'll be able to work their way to 11-5 season, get into the playoffs, and then we'll see what they can do. Work a little magic. Now, Osama's got his Super Bowl. Is Atlanta-Pittsburgh, with Pittsburgh winning it. Which, we're going to get to it. It kind of contradicts his power rankings a little later on, but we'll get to that a little later on the show. But I got the Jets finally taking that step, getting to the Super Bowl and losing to Green Bay. I think the Jets have made some strides. 2 years ago they shocked the world, made it to the AFC Championship game. Clearly were overmatched in the second half. Last year they made it again, battled back, fought back. They were right in that game. They lost it. With 2 minutes to go, they could have stopped them on one third down play. They would have got the ball back and had a shot. They couldn't do it. I think they make that next step, get to the Super Bowl, but I don't think anybody's beating Green Bay this year. I mean, they showed it last year. They could overcome injuries. Now they're healthy. They got Jermichael Finley. They got Ryan Grant. They have everybody coming back from last year. I don't see anybody beating them. That's what we got. So take a look. We're gonna post these on the website. Take a look. We love your comments. We love your discussion on the Facebook wall. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more NFL. We're Tri-State Sports Guys. We'll be right back.